Hi, I'm Sonia Kohlberg, and I'm here today with Dr. David Kim, a professor of medicine at OU Health Sciences Center. And we're talking today about stem cell research, and stem cell research is considered such a promising factor in medicine. And now President Obama has lifted restrictions on the federal funding of embryonic stem cell research. And I wondered, could you tell us a little bit about what your concerns are about this?
Okay, thank you, Sonia. I do need to state right off the bat, though, that I'm speaking for myself and not as a representative of either the Health Science Center or the Veterans Center where I have my appointments. I'm concerned, naturally, for two reasons. One is to make sure that people understand that there is a need for research and work with stem cells. And this has been supported by myself and many other people for years. But the concern is the use of embryonic stem cells. And the difference there is that these are stem cells that are obtained from a living organism that result when they're obtained in the death of that organism. And in this case, it's an unborn baby. Fertilized egg, people can call it a lot of things, but it's still an unborn baby. The research that most people have been successful with and working on adult stem cell is a different issue.
Okay. Well, how long has research been conducted by private companies using embryonic stem cells?
Well, there has been research over many years in embryonic stem cells, usually using animal models and the earlier part, because it was not considered right to be using material from humans along the line. This became much more notable, however, in the 90s with cloning, which is a different issue than here, but that is of using these cells to try to create another being, an animal first with Dolly, and then now the question of whether humans have been attempted or not. That is a little bit different, but with that, the ante was raised quite a bit because it became clear the people that, in fact, living organisms were going to be sacrificed, if you will, or killed in the process of this research. In the 90s and the 2000s, in the last 20 years, this has been a great deal.
Mm-hmm, I see. So how many diseases are being treated using embryonic stem cells?
Well, I don't have exact figures on this, but it's generally known that up to 70 different illnesses have been attempted to be treated with stem cells. All of these, I might emphasize, are with adult stem cells. And there is an intense amount of research going on because some of these have been very successful. And I could give you a couple of examples. One of them would be marrow replacements, in which people with leukemias and various hematologic diseases that haven't responded to medications as the best therapy at the end, at this point, is to have all their red cells, white cells replaced and with stem cells, which then grow back into these. These are harvested from other individuals and sometimes even from the same individual. And they have been much more successful. Mm-hmm. There are other areas that aren't as successful but are still being worked at in terms of solid tumors. For example, breast cancer, which of course all women and unknowingly many men, because men can get it also, and they do worse than women, as a matter of fact. But this has been attempted and worked with in these areas, and they have been initially a promise, but they've still been difficult because it's difficult to eradicate the parent tumor, not because of the stem cells, but because of eradicating the parent tumor. There are others that are less successful and conditions where they're often advertised as being amenable to it, but there's a lot of scientific question about that. An example would be Alzheimer's. It's going to be very difficult to do a brain transplant with cells of this nature. And the other approaches that are being used, even some of them invented locally, are very promising in this area. And so these are some promises that are being put out for any type of stem cell, and it's going to be taken slowly, step by step.
Years and years, I guess.
Yes.
And what are some of the financial implications of stem cell?
There are immense financial implications. One, the research is expensive because it takes a lot of personnel, work, tissue cultures for adult stem cells as well as so-called embryonal stem cells. It's very important to understand that this material, however, is also patentable. And the people who have developed a particular technique, for example, one institution in the United States was involved in the early techniques for embryonal stem cell production, and they have claimed a patent on it that would be worth billions of dollars. And this is because of the nature of it is being contested all the way through the Supreme Court. And if they were to win this, this institution will receive billions of dollars in terms of patentable material on any use of that other people design for embryonal stem cells. You can well imagine the views that this institution have in trying to promote something that has such a financial benefit.
Okay, so overall, what do you think is the potential for embryonic stem cell?
The potential for embryonal stem cells, of course, is a very controversial area, and there are others who are claiming all things for it. The reality is that it's very unlikely that this will progress because of the dangers of using these so-called total potential cells. These can grow any which way. A study recently in Israel has reported the possibility or probability of developing tumors where these become their own cancer, if you will, within the body because they don't have the same restrictions that have been built in as they have developed within the normal developing baby along the line. Secondly, these cells also have immune restraints. The body would still reject them from another person. A stem cell from a part, each has its own immunologic characteristics. These have to be engineered out, just which, for example, adult stem cells do not for the same individual. And so the adult stem cells also do not appear to have this uncontrolled growth rate. But in the end, I want to emphasize that these are scientific issues. And while I think that the odds are greatest, that the greatest amount of good will come from giving research support, increasingly so, to adult stem cell, my objections are on a moral basis, an ethical basis, rather than on a scientific basis as such.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Kim, and be sure to stay tuned. We'll continue following this story on stem cell research.